No matter how far you run from them, childhood tragedies have a way of catching back up with you. So is true of elite diver Veronica West, who at the start of our news story, Narcosis, is with her dive team finishing a tidal energy project off the coast of Durness, Scotland. But at the bottom of the rocky sea, she'll encounter something that will draw her back to her home of Sinclair Island, Maine, and ultimately to lead a deadly mission to the bottom of the Bay of Fundy. I'm excited to share with you today the first taste of Narcosis, and I'll be joined with co-creator and writer Chris Greenhalgh just after this.
Champion work because it's a rare, bright day in the Highlands. Temperatures today reached a balmy 15 degrees with wind.
Veronica, what's your location? I've lost you on the finder.
Veronica? Veronica, do you copy?
I have visual on her, Sonna. She's welding the seam in engine 5.
Almost done. All patched up.
No other signs of compromises or obtrusions. Turbine holes are clean.
Diagnostic looks good.
Good work. We are headed back.
Well, that went quicker than I was expecting. We'll have a chance to get cleaned up before the dinner with CGen suits.
I prefer to do my executive meetings in flip-flops. You hear that?
Sounds like an engine went down.
Number 2. What the hell?
Let's check it out.
What is that?
Be careful. If it's larger than the propeller, it could eject at any moment.
Something's sticking out.
Get your tank off. I need to take a look at you. Okay, deep breaths. There you go. Okay, your heart rate is spiking. Let me give you something to calm you down. No, I'm fine. Okay. Let's head in.
And that was the opening scene of Narcosis, and you'll have to come back next time to hear where things go next. I'm joined now with series co-creator and writer Chris Greenhalgh. Chris is a writer and filmmaker who most recently worked as one of the screenwriters on 2022's Halloween Ends. Chris grew up as an East Hampton town native, where he learned the craft by studying local literary heroes Peter Benchley and Kurt Vonnegut. He's currently based in Maine and is working on Lure, a horror movie set in a haunted southern town with director Corin Hardy for Universal Pictures, as well as Weave, his feature directorial debut about a group of rural Maine neighbors who become trapped in a cursed forest. His novella, Dead Man's Suit, is available to download for free on Amazon right now. Chris, welcome to Undertow.
Thanks, Fred. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to get to talk to you today.
You're at a party, someone's asking you about this podcast. What do you tell them to get them excited about checking it out?
Yeah, so Narcosis kind of comes from the tradition of aquatic horror, which is basically, horror things that revolve in and around the sea. And it's set on a little island called Sinclair Island off the coast of Maine. Our main character is a world-renowned diver by the name of Veronica, and she sort of left this island off the coast of Maine when she was a teenager because she'd dealt with some personal issues and kind of self-exiled herself and vowed to never return. But at the beginning of the story, she gets a call that her best friend from childhood has gone missing in a dive expedition, and her body is believed to be in a cave below the sea. So Veronica, being one of the only divers capable enough to make such a dangerous dive, decides to return home to this island hometown where she's been estranged for most of her adult life, or all of her adult life, to salvage her friend's body from the depths.
And things go super smoothly.
Things go very smoothly. Yeah, I think when we were first discussing that this was a few of the qualities that we were excited about. I think we were excited about doing sort of a scary adventure story that was really personal, that felt like it extended from this culture that we have in Maine, which is these towns that are along the coastline and some of which that are on islands that bring a lot of seasonal economy, a lot of tourists, and it sort of defines the modern day nature of these towns. And so we wanted to explore that through the perspective of a native daughter who's been estranged and is returning home under very mysterious conditions with like a really psychological and harrowing charge to go sort of lead this treacherous diving expedition. So yeah, we think that was some of the ingredients that we pulled together. And then, yeah, to your point, it does go in weird directions.
You know, as a horror writer and enthusiast in the space, like who is this for? Who's going to enjoy it? What are some of the elements, that make it aquatic horror? Like what are some of the stuff, like that stuff that's sort of really juicy for the listening experience, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you like horror, I think it's got all of the fun ingredients that make up a wonderful horror story. It's got scares, it's got sort of darkly imaginative environments, it's got some fun psychology, some fun exploration of the supernatural in ways that maybe we haven't seen in one thing. It's combining elements. So I think in that way it's provocative. It's going to be exciting for true horror fans. I think for more generalized audiences, it's a really relatable journey of the main character, Veronica, who's, sort of trying to return to her home and right the scales. She left in a way that has always kind of hung over her. And so she's returning to try to reclaim something of her past and of her identity and of her childhood. So I think that's really relatable. And I think in the other thing is just the environment, the vibrance of Sinclair Island, and it's an island that has always had sort of a seafaring history, and we explore some of that history. But in the modern day is also the location of a major resort and spa where people can go and have these wonderful sort of spa weekend getaway with rejuvenative treatments. And so I think, some of the best horror for me is stuff that springs from the everyday world around us and kind of reimagines and reinvigorates our everyday existence through this sort of supernatural filter that brings real charge and danger and excitement to things. And so I think Narcosis achieves all of that. I think it's a wild ride. I think it's a lot of fun. And I think, more than all of that, it goes to really unexpected places.
Of course, the ocean is almost as much a character as some of the other, any of the main characters, or even the island itself. And I'm curious, why is the ocean scary?
Both you and I, Fred, sort of live in an area. Maine is really dominated by the sea. And the story of Maine is kind of the story of the sea. And that's not just lobsters. If you think about Maine, it's lakes and rivers and coastline. And then if you get up to down east, where our story is set, there's this particularly ferocious body of water called the Bay of Fundy. And I'm going to get the exact numbers wrong, but I think the variation from low to high tide is something like 50 feet. And that can shift within an hour. So, historically back in the day, when people were using this as a major thoroughfare, there are literally thousands of shipwrecks littering the bottom of the Bay of Fundy, many of which have not been explored because the conditions are too harsh to dive in. So that just, to me, as a horror thinker, as a horror storyteller, that just is like rich with promise. Let's go imagine that. Let's go find out what's down in these caves.
As you're saying that, it reminds me that when we were recording, it was actually during the period of time that submarine that was exploring the Titanic had tragically gone missing, and everyone, there was a certain I guess a reminder, the ocean is one of those environments that likes to remind humans that hubris doesn't do you too good. And technology will not save you from the pressure, at these depths. And so that there's just something out there about this sort of idea that humans have we have all this technology. We on land, we like to imagine that we've really mastered our environment, and the ocean is an environment that will disabuse you of that notion very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, and that to me is part of the beauty of this notion of the supernatural, right? Which is this kind of ongoing dialogue that I think we have through stories with the unknown qualities surrounding us, some more tangible than others. I think when you get into ocean landscapes, much like the deep forest, that's when you really do sort of start to realize that you are not, you're not fully in charge anymore. That there's something greater than you at play. And there's something that's, I think, both sort of nurturing and also, potentially very dangerous about it. So that kind of duality was a fun thing to be able to explore.
Amazing. I hope you now are very intrigued to hear more of Narcosis coming out here on Undertow. Chris, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And that was Chris Bernier, co-creator and writer on Narcosis. It is such a terrifying and terribly riveting show. You'll have to come back here next time to experience it only on Undertow. Undertow is a production of Realm, hosted by me, Fred Greenhalgh, produced by Nicole Kreuter, associate produced by Devin Shepard, executive produced by Fred Greenhalgh and Molly Parton. Original theme by Hubert Campbell. Find more shows like Undertow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are served.